Moisture is the enemy of 3D printing. If you ever had issues with layer adhesion, brittle prints, or weird stringing, chances are it's because of moisture. Many filaments, especially hygroscopic ones like PLA, PETG, TPU, and nylon, soak up moisture from the air, which affects their print quality. Today we're going to review the top methods to dry your filaments, as well as keep them dry. I'm Brian DeLuca, and this is Make or Build It, and today we're talking about how to keep your 3D printing filament dry. Drying filament can improve your print quality, prevent failures, and extend the lifespan of your materials. And we're going to discuss the best ways to do that. But why is drying your filament so important? Filament absorbs moisture, which can cause issues due to the water inside of the filament itself. This leads to inconsistent extrusion, poor adhesion, weak prints, excessive stringing, and even mechanical failure. Drying filament before you print ensures none of these things happen to your print. So what are the best methods for drying filament? Number one, a filament dryer. A filament dryer is the most effective and convenient way to remove moisture from all your filament. These devices gently heat filament to evaporate any absorbed water while keeping it at a consistent temperature. Some models even allow you to print directly while the filament is in the filament dryer. Always check the recommended drying temperature for each material. With choosing a filament dryer, one of the things I found is choosing a filament dryer that has a lot of flexibility. For instance, this filament dryer could only hold one spool of 1 kilogram filament. So there's really not much flexibility in it, and it doesn't even spin, it just heats up from the bottom. Now, this IBOS Poly Primus filament dryer offers a lot of flexibility. It could hold multiple spools of filament and even different sizes, such as a 3 kilogram one when you use the extension to raise the lid. It also offers various material presets as well as 3 customizable settings. But one of the coolest features about this IBOS Poly Primus is it has 360-degree rotation, which keeps your filament evenly heated. So once again, for me, the biggest factor in choosing a filament dryer is choosing one that has the most flexibility. Even though right now your need may be for a filament dryer that only holds one 1 kilogram roll, in the future, I guarantee you, you will need to dry more than one roll of filament. So having something that helps with that and you're able to feed directly into your printer with will always be a better option. Here's another way to dry your filament, and it may even be a way to upcycle some of your old printers. If you don't have a filament dryer, your 3D printer's heated bed can act as a makeshift solution. So some of the newer printers, like the Bambu Labs X1 Carbon, offer a function in their settings where you can dry filament using the printer. But what better than to upcycle one of your older printers, for instance, this Ender 3V2, where you use the heat bed in order to heat your filament. Now, obviously, it's going to be much more efficient if you have a tent around this or some sort of enclosure because it will keep the heat in. But it's a great way to upcycle one of your old printers that you're no longer printing on, instead of throwing it away or having it sit in the corner collecting dust. You're going to want to preheat the bed to 55 to 60 degrees Celsius for PLA, 70 to 80 degrees Celsius for PETG, and 80 to 100 degrees Celsius for ABS and nylon. Always check the recommended drying temperature of your materials. Let it sit for about 4 to 6 hours, rotating it occasionally. While effective, this method requires a lot of monitoring so you don't overheat your filament. Now, Desiccant is another great solution to help keep your filament dry. While Desiccant doesn't dry filament, it helps keep it from absorbing moisture. Silica gel packets are reusable and work well for this purpose. Calcium chloride found in things like dampened absorb even more moisture. To store filament properly, you can place it in an airtight container with Desiccant packets. You can also use a hydrometer to monitor humidity, keeping it below 20% relative humidity. One of the best things to keep your filament dry is using a dehumidifier. A room dehumidifier helps remove overall humidity, which will help filament from absorbing moisture. This is especially useful for makers who are storing multiple spools of filament in one area. Now, this is our shop dehumidifier, and I know you're probably looking at this thing going, this thing is ancient. And it is, but if it's not broken, why fix it? I'm a little out of breath from lifting this thing up on the workbench. So how I got this humidifier is one of the previous owners of a house and was restoring, left it, and it just sort of became my shop dehumidifier. It's been working ever since. So what are some of the things you want to look for if you're purchasing a new dehumidifier for your filament? First one is capacity and coverage area. You need a dehumidifier that's actually going to work in the size shop you have. If it's too small, it won't control the humidity properly. If it's too big, it actually may heat up the room too much because these things do generate a decent amount of heat. As far as capacity goes, you want to see how much humidity the dehumidifier could remove per day. Make sure the square foot coverage matches your print space. So you want to look at your tank capacity option, which is where the water gets stored when the dehumidifier pulls it in. If it has a continuous drain option and you have a place where you could automatically dump that water, such as maybe a slop sink or something like that, you want to also look for a dehumidifier that has humidity controls. The humidity stat lets you set and maintain a given humidity in your workshop. You really want to sit at 20% or below if possible. You also want a dehumidifier that has an automatic shutoff, so once you get to the relative humidity you want in your shop, it will shut off automatically. Unlike this bad boy, you probably want to look for a unit that is more energy efficient. One, you're going to save some money. Two, it's going to be a lot quieter. This one makes a lot of noise, and between your printers going and a dehumidifier, your shop could get pretty noisy pretty quick. Also, an adjustable fan speed will help with the dehumidifier's performance. Anyone want to help me put this one back in its place? This thing's heavy. I've also seen a ton of videos of people using food dehydrators. Now, food dehydrators work sort of similar to the way filament dryers work. I guess maybe if you can find an inexpensive food dehydrator, maybe it's a cheaper alternative to a filament dryer. But don't use it on your food and your filament. If you're going to dehydrate your food and your filament, please buy two different food dehydrators. And I've even seen people do it in their ovens, which to me is just really weird. I don't know. I would probably avoid that. What are the best drying temps and times by filament type? PLA should dry at 45 to 55 degrees Celsius for 4 to 6 hours. PETG at 60 to 70 degrees Celsius for 4 to 6 hours. ABS at 70 to 80 degrees Celsius for 4 to 6 hours. Nylon at 75 to 90 degrees for 6 to 12 hours. TPU at 50 to 60 degrees for 4 to 6 hours. And polycarbonate at 80 to 100 degrees for 6 to 8 hours. I'll drop a link in the description below to get a free download of the guide. Keeping your filament dry is one of the best ways to improve print quality, reduce failure, and get the most out of your materials. Removing the moisture is going to make a huge difference in your 3D prints. For more on 3D printing, DIY, or maker projects, make sure you like and follow Maker Build It, and remember, keep on making.